Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning and Development Zoning Commission meeting for September 23rd. It is a few minutes late, 6:04, so we'll get started. Start with roll call. Ryan Miller, that's me, I'm here. Kyle Maraskin.
Here.
Marianne Atkinson.
Here.
Kenneth Haynes.
Here.
Christy Kennard is not here. Dolores Martin.
Here.
And William Richardson.
Here.
Excellent. If I can everybody stand for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, thank you. I guess we don't have any public comment cards. Doesn't look like it. So first up on our agenda this evening was supposed to be a workshop and presentation, but that applicant is not here and has asked us to move that to a different date, so we will move past that with no action for now then, unless there's any updates you'd like to give us on it.
So this is the workshop item, and this is related to the PUD amendment for Del Bello, and in order to allow for a car dealership. This was discussed at one of the previous P&Z Commission meeting. We've had the public hearing for the same item with the City Council as well. Since we did not have an action item on this at the P&Z level, an action item is pending at the council level too. Since the previous meeting, the applicant has not provided us with a different proposal or a different layout or anything that has addressed any of the concerns that were brought up at the public hearing. However, they told us that they have an engineer who is going to be present at the meeting to present a response to all the comments and concerns that they heard from the last meeting. However, last minute today, they said their owner had some personal event happen because of which they are not able to make it to the meeting. So they requested that the action item be postponed for the next PD&Z Commission meeting. Just a reminder on the item. So the workshop item was put in because after the last meeting, we did have some concerns and there were certain issues that needed to be discussed. So we set this time aside so that the commission can discuss any can ask us any questions or discuss any of the issues pertaining to the proposal. But as you said, since there hasn't been any change or anything that's brought forth, I'm not sure how long of a discussion we can have. From staff perspective, what I can update you is like the proposal is to have another automobile dealership within the PUD on the remaining commercial acreage. As written or as requested, the PUD amendment suggests that as requested, the request is to amend the PUD to allow for car dealership use on the entire acreage, but they did provide us with a site layout that shows the location of the car dealership with a car wash and some other pad sites for other commercial uses. Based on our review, we found that the drainage for the property is already factored into the overall development's master drainage master plan. So a detention pond is not required. This was one of the issues that was brought up at the last meeting. And staff's recommendation is denial based on looking at the commercial acreage that we have and the PUD already having a car dealership. Putting in another car dealership reduces the opportunity for diversity in terms of neighborhood level commercial uses that can be put on it. And also the reasoning that was provided last meeting was that the way it is requested looks like they are requesting allowance of car dealership on the entire remaining acreage. Now, certain items were discussed in terms of what kind of development regulations or requirements can be added on to the proposal if the commission intended to consider approving the request. And concerns such as lighting, landscaping buffer, the test drive issues that have been happening on the existing dealership. Several concerns were brought up, but we haven't heard any response from the applicant, and we're hoping that there's some response at the next meeting when we include a action item. So having said that, if you all have any questions of staff, we'll be happy to address those questions. If not, we can move on to the next item.
Okay. I mean, I know diversity in our commercial, use is a big deal. We all live here too, and I don't want to go buy a car every day. I want to go do other things. So
Well, I would hope so.
it'd be nice if I could buy a car every day, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, can we
yeah.
consider, if we do consider, since they want, it's 16 acres, I believe, correct?
Is the balance, I believe, yes.
Oh, that's not a 30-acre plot? That's only a 16?
The whole thing is 50, but the existing dealership takes up part of that.
No, I think what they're proposing is like a total of 16 acres of the land is shown as the car dealership building and the car wash. That's what my understanding is. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ellie.
But the total acreage that they want to amend is 30 acres.
Yeah,
And that 30 acres is all on the south side, correct?
Correct.
Of the road?
Yeah.
Yes,
So that-
Correct.
all of
Yeah,
that.
so if that 30 acres is for commercial, they wanted 16 of it, correct?
correct.
So,
Well, that's what the drawing they gave us is the request is for all of it to be allowed to be.
yes, but for the car dealership, they wanted 16 of that 30.
At least, yeah.
But as requested, the amendment as requested suggests it doesn't distinguish. There is a site plan that shows that distinction of 16 acres and the other, but the way it is requested and the language that is proposed appears to be the allowance to apply to the entire acreage.
Okay.
So that was one of the concerns that staff had, based on which staff was recommending denial of the request.
So if they request that, can we reword it and say only a percentage of, instead of giving them the whole thing? Or do we just have to vote on what they ask us? We want
I think
this.
I have a feeling Bobby will be able to answer that better. Do you want to go over the
Okay,
options they
Mr.
have?
Bobby.
Well, I mean, part of it's PUD is kind of a negotiated zoning district in a way. I mean, the part of that is like you're not going to unilaterally just say what they can have and what they can't. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a car dealership at all. The original council didn't want a car dealership there because of all the concerns. And through the negotiation, the former council was going to allow just one, and it was only going to be north of Del Bello. That's why the language is in there now. So the council at that time just didn't do its own thing. They kind of did it as a negotiated deal, which is the way most PUDs are done. So that's why it's only above Del Bello is the only one that they're allowed, and now they're asking to amend it,
No.
kind of go and get further than what the original council approved in the original PUD.
So with that being commercial land, but without the specific use permit, they have the right, okay, so if we don't do the dealership and they still start building something, do they, if they don't need a special PUD thing to build something, do they have to come back to us for anything?
Well, the
If we
uses
don't
that.
let them have
It depends. The
dealership?
uses that are in the PUD are specified. And I don't recall offhand if some of the uses are permitted with a specific use permit. We do have some of those now, like with like Manvel Town Center, I think, a doctor's office, things like that now require specific use permit. And I don't know, maybe Ellie knows the PUD more intimately to know whether the use is specified. Some of them might require a specific use permit. Most of them are just going to be probably permitted uses outright listed on the magic list of things. And it may be by implication, it might just be anything allowed in light commercial except blah, 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 blah. It might be something as simple as that rather than list 800 uses or something. Ellie, does that sound right to you?
I don't remember exactly the details in the pod for Del Bello Lakes, but it's usually like that. It
Yeah.
says it goes based on light commercial, or they have their own specific uses?
So the chances are that the general retail service type uses, like your restaurants and offices, all of those that we see that's allowed along the Highway 6 corridor, can go in without another authorization from the city council or the Planning, Development and Zoning Commission. And just to add to your concern, I want to highlight that so if they add this car dealership, now out of the commercial acreage within the PUD, 67.94% of that commercial acreage now is with a car dealership. I mean, both of them included. So which is way more than half of the commercial acreage that is out there. So that was one of the concerns as part of staff's recommendation that was presented last time also, that it seems like there's a bit too much of car dealership when both these, the existing and the proposed one is considered together. That leaves only 40% of the acreage remaining for other neighborhood level commercial retail sales and services.
That was what I was trying to get at, as far as instead of giving them that 57 or 60 whatever percent, saying no, but we'd allow maybe 35 or 40%, whatever number, we sit down and think about it.
I believe that was a recommendation. If we did choose to recommend approval, those at least put that condition on it.
And I think I want to correct you because, so based on their request, it would go 100% car dealership. But if we factor in only the 16 acres, now we are talking about 67%, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about, the 16 acres, and not, only, 6 or 7 acres, or 6 point whatever, to come out to 40 or a little below that.
Sure. But I'm not sure if the applicant would be okay with that, because I think they may need a certain amount of acreage to make this feasible.
Okay. Mr. Haynes, any questions?
Yeah, with that, you said on the drainage, it was calculated. 9 years ago, it was calculated for light commercial for a dealership, which doubles the concrete of almost any light commercial business.
So my understanding.
Yeah, that's where,
There's a little road
yeah.
there.
So we don't have our engineer present right now, and by no means I'm talking on behalf of an engineer, but my understanding is the calculation is based on impervious cover, and it's irrespective of a specific type of use, and the capacity is based on whatever that allowance is. However, if what is being proposed deviates from that calculation, at that point, there would be a detention required. But my understanding is, based on our engineer's review, that it is, the capacity is factored in. However, as I said, like if what is being proposed includes way more impervious cover than what was considered, then they will have to either modify the calculation or make changes to the existing ponds where the water is being conveyed to, or add a pond to make up for whatever that deviation is or that change is.
Yeah, because to me, looking at this and doing some of the calculations, they're going to have to add another pond.
Sure, and we'll make sure that at the next meeting, when we have an action item, one of our engineers is present and is able to give you an engineer's response rather than a planner's response.
I was just more of a question, so yeah.
So I want to go back to the existing PUD. So the existing PUD that we have for this property, is it for the property that's on the existing dealership that's there now? Are both of those areas combined? Or is it separate?
That covers the whole development.
Okay, so it covers the whole development, and in that,
The residential too.
and the residential. Okay, got it. So in that existing PUD, does it specify what percentage of car dealerships that we can have in that PUD, or is it?
So it specified the exact location of where they can only go.
Okay,
North of Del Bello Boulevard. It's the only place you can have that.
Okay.
And there's not much of the development land that's north of that. That's not already counted for residential.
Okay.
So there's not that much. I think there's one lot that we had the gas station apply that time.
Yeah,
I think
that
that's
we-
north of Del Bello. But I think there's no other available land, I think, for commercial that would be available. So
Okay.
That's why they want to amend the PUD.
Okay.
And just a general understanding on PUD, creation of PUDs. So the allowance for the PUD is for developers to develop large acreage in a manner that one existing zoning district may not allow. So in the process of approving and staff making recommendation and council looking at the whole PUD is to see what value it brings to the community based on what is being proposed. So at that time when this whole PUD was being considered, there was residential and there was commercial acreage. One of the things that the council may have looked at, or one of the things that staff may have looked at, is do we have enough mix of residential and commercial in terms of having a good neighborhood living? And maybe the developer had at that point a prospect for a car dealership to establish there. And as Bobby suggested, that was brought up at that point. There was a negotiation that happened. And council may have looked at, okay, there are so many residential units, or we have a residential area here, the commercial property along 288, and having one dealership to make the whole development happen and add value to the city of Manvel's fabric was good, and they approved the PUD. So that was with an understanding that the remaining acreage would have commercial uses that would be of value to the residents there and the residents of the city of Manvel in general. That may have been a position that was taken. Now with the PUD amendment, what they're requesting is had another dealership, which now takes away from the opportunity for other types of commercial use, as you mentioned, where residents can have a interaction on a day-to-day basis rather than just go buy a car at one point, depending on what dealership comes in there. And there are some other details also that staff was kind of concerned about, is if at all we are looking at amendment and approving the request, we may have to also look into what other conditions we may put, like do we need to restrict it to a new car dealership versus a used car dealership, or the primary sales being a new car sales versus 100% used? Should we also look into prevention of like light pollution, or putting in standards that are slightly more stringent than what we have in our guidelines in order to help the communities from the detrimental impacts of the commercial use being there right next to the residences, because this might be slightly different from some of the other general retail sales and service type uses. So those were some of the conversations we would need to have based on whatever is proposed by the applicant in response to all the comments and concerns they heard at the public hearings at P&Z as well as City Council. So just wanted to mention that so that you all are aware of how we looked at the PUD and what are some of the recommendations that staff may have if there is an approach that, hey, yeah, this may make sense and you may want to recommend approval to the City Council.
Thank you. Ms. Martin, did you have any other questions?
No, he made it quite clear what we should and should not do.
Okay. So is there anything y'all want to discuss about more stringent requirements for?
It's no use to discuss it if you're not sure what they're going to do.
Well, I just want to ask, can you find out which way the current dealership drains and then the one they're asking for? Because, I mean, looking at this map, it's kind of hard, but it looks like that all drains into Lake D. So that's more of a question just for me.
Sure.
That I'm looking to, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll look that up for you.
Okay. And then that's it.
And so was there anything that y'all
No,
wanted to list out? No? Okay.
not at this time.
Any other discussion?
My only comment was in regards to the noise that the homeowners would have to deal with in the light. So, I mean, once they come back and start talking to us again, I definitely want to
See what they
understand and.
See what
and
they plan to do about it.
Yeah, see what they, because they can put some lights there that make sure that the lights don't bleed over into the homeowners, because there's quite a few homeowners that's going to be backed up against this property here, this development, so.
There's a lot they could do,
Yep.
but would do.
Now, would that be the problem with not just the dealership, but a retail area too? I mean, we'd have to kind of think along those lines, because you're right, that there's a lot of houses back there, and if we're going
Well,
to do that.
It's already
really.
allowed to have, certain types of retail, and there's requirements in there for that. So, if,
Right, but on the list that y'all gave us about the light, maybe a lower candle light or something like that, but is that something we can put into whatever comes back? I mean, can we specify stuff like that?
Only if you are approving the car dealership and only as it relates to that. Because for all the other types of uses, I think the PUD already provides certain requirements that apply to those. And this request is for the car dealership use, and the opportunity for the P&Z Commission is to look at it and say, number one, if in y'all's opinion, this use does not fit there, and you cannot approve it, that's one option. The other option is if you feel that if the car dealership can work, provided these X, Y, Z, A, B, C conditions apply to that particular use, then that's the other option. However, we don't have the option to prescribe requirements and regulations to apply to uses that are not being discussed on the item, on the amendment.
okay, very good.
Moving on down the road.
Okay. So next we'll move on to our consent agenda then, which is made up of 3 items. Approve Meridiana Section 25A preliminary plat, approve a final plat from Meridiana Public Detention Reserve Y, and approve the meeting minutes to date.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. Okay, on to our regular agenda. Consideration of possible action to approve final plat for Meridiana Detention Reserve Z Phase 1. Who would like to tell us all about it?
Yes. The Meridiana Detention Reserve Z Phase 1 final plat is a proposed plat for a detention facility within the Meridiana Master Plan development. The development was established in an open plan unit development in 2009. The 23rd Amendment to Meridiana General Plan Development was approved by the Planning, Development, and Zoning Commission on March 25th, 2024. The 3rd Amendment to Meridiana was approved by the City Council on April 1st, 2024. This plat is located along the eastern side of South Inspiration Way, abutting a proposed Section 6 and 9. This site is located within the city of Manvel and is part of the Brazoria County Municipal Utility District 57. The proposed plat includes 18.223 acres tract into one block, 4 reserves for landscaping, open space, drainage, detention, recreation, and utility purposes. The proposed plat generally conforms with the preliminary plat that was approved in April 2024. Please note that the 2 applicable drainage districts to the subject site is Drainage District Number 5 and Conservation and Reclamation District Number 4. And both the drainage districts approved and signed the drainage plan. But since the applicant intends to include the signatures on the face of the plat, they have submitted this plat to get approved, and it might take some time. The staff recommends approval of the Meridiana Detention Reserve Z Phase 1 with one condition: to provide registered professional land surveyor signature, property owners with the notary signatures, and also the required drainage districts on the face of the plat.
Okay, thank you very much. Who has questions? No questions? Motions then?
Motion to approve with one condition.
All those in favor? And motion carries unanimously 6-0. Okay, agenda item B has requested to be tabled. That would be the action item for the car dealership. So we just need to table that, correct? So,
Is this a table, or do they technically pull it?
I think Tammy says likes the language, so she went to a seminar and said that to do it to a postpone, motion to postpone. Did you hear that? That's our latest thing?
That's what I was trying to,
Okay.
terminology of it.
I mean, we know what the intent is, but it'll come back at the next meeting.
okay. So I have a motion to postpone agenda item B.
Motion to
Second.
postpone.
Second, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Okay. Agenda item C, consideration and possible action to direct staff to provide applicants written statements of the conditions of any conditional approvals and the reasons for disapproval of any plans or plats that were not approved per Texas Local Government Code 212.0091. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously 6-0.
Motion to adjourn.
And second?
Second.
And all in favor? Six, okay, 6-0. Okay, thank you, everybody, for coming. The action item for the car dealership has been moved, it looks like, to the next meeting. So, in 2 weeks, so again, it will be right here at 6 o'clock, and if you're not available, it will be streamed on YouTube as well. But we would love to have you back here and love to hear from you on that too.